If you're thinking about moving to Northern Virginia, there's a very good chance you've already come across or you're about to come across this question. Should we live in Arlington or Alexandria? And on the surface, they seem pretty similar. They're both right outside Washington, D.C. They both have strong real estate markets. They both offer access, opportunity, and lifestyle. But in reality, they feel very different. And after helping buyers for more than 20 years and living in this area for over 30, I can tell you that this decision is less about geography and much more about how you want your life to feel day to day. I've seen people choose Arlington and absolutely thrive there. And I've seen people choose Alexandria and feel like they found their place. And I've also seen people choose one and later realize that the other might have been a better fit. So, in this video, I want to walk through the real differences between Arlington and Alexandria. Not just on a map, but what it actually feels like to live in each. My name is Brian Block. I'm a real estate broker with RE/MAX Allegiance based in Alexandria, Virginia. I've been helping buyers and sellers in Northern Virginia in the DC area for over 2 decades, and I currently serve as the managing broker of our Alexandria office. Before real estate, I practiced law for several years here in the DC area, and I think that background shaped how I approach these conversations. I tend to think in terms of trade-offs, long-term outcomes, and patterns, and use my contracts and negotiation skills to help my real estate clients. But just as important, I've lived this. I've been in the DC area for over 30 years. For the first stretch, about 7 years, I lived in Arlington. And for the majority of the time since then, I've lived in Alexandria. So this isn't just something that I've observed professionally. It's something I've experienced personally as well. And before we dive in to the differences between Alexandria and Arlington, it's worth saying that there are a lot of great areas in Northern Virginia. McLean, Vienna, Falls Church, Reston, Burke, all strong options. But when people are relocating, especially if they want proximity to DC, Arlington and Alexandria are usually the two that come up first. They're the most popular, they're the closest in, and they're the ones that people tend to compare. If I had to summarize the difference simply, I would say this. Arlington is more urban, structured, and convenience-driven. Alexandria is more varied, character-driven, and lifestyle-oriented. Arlington feels more planned, more efficient, more connected to work and movement. Alexandria feels more layered, more personal, more rooted in community. And what I've seen over the years, both personally and professionally, is that people usually feel a pull towards one pretty quickly. It's almost instinctive. So let's take a closer look at Arlington. Arlington is built around access, especially the metro. There's first the Rosslyn-Ballston corridor. This is the core. Rosslyn to Courthouse to Clarendon to Ballston. These areas and communities grew up around the Orange Line Metro with many high-rise condos and apartments close to Metro and townhomes and single-family homes fanning out from there. You have density, walkability, and energy. You can walk to almost everything. Restaurants, gyms, work, Metro. This is where I lived early on, in Rosslyn, Ballston, and then later in Shirlington. And at that stage of life, it made perfect sense. Everything was efficient. Everything was close. Then there's Pentagon City and National Landing, which used to be referred to as Crystal City. This area has evolved significantly. With Amazon HQ2, we're seeing major redevelopment, modern buildings, and a strong job concentration. It's very appealing for people who want proximity to work, airport access to National Airport, and newer infrastructure. There's the popular Pentagon City Mall, and lots of new restaurants and living options in National Landing. Cherrydale in North Arlington. This is where things slow down a bit. There are more large single-family homes, residential streets, and tree-lined areas, and it's still very close to Washington, D.C. This is often where I see buyers land who want Arlington access, but less intensity. There's lots of parks and outdoor space in Arlington. Arlington has excellent parks, but they're often integrated into the urban environment. You'll see bike trails, smaller parks, and access to the Custis Trail is very functional. Arlington demographics are generally younger, more transient, and very career-focused. A lot of people are early to mid-career, working in DC or nearby. Patterns that I've seen: people who choose Arlington well value efficiency, they value time, and they enjoy energy. The people who struggle expect more space and underestimate the density that can be there in Arlington. Let's talk about Alexandria. Now, Alexandria is a little bit more complex, and that's part of what makes it interesting. First is Old Town Alexandria. Old Town is historic, walkable, and waterfront. But more importantly, it feels distinct. There are charming cobblestone streets, parades and festivals throughout the year, art galleries and boutique browsing along King Street, and it seems like there's a coffee shop just about every 50 feet. I remember one evening with my wife Deborah, we had no real plan. We just walked. We stopped for a drink, walked down towards the water, and then just happened to run into friends while browsing a King Street shop, and ended up having dinner somewhere that we hadn't planned. And I remember thinking to myself, this is a very different experience than what I had when I lived in Arlington. Not better, but different. Less about efficiency, more about the experience. Then there's Del Rey. Del Rey in Alexandria has a completely different personality. There's a strong local feel, lots of independent businesses, and a real community vibe, yoga studios, older but renovated homes, and lots of dogs. I've had multiple clients choose Del Rey because it felt more personal. One told me, this feels like where we'd actually get to know people. The big event of the year is the Del Rey Art Festival, when it seems like everyone who lives in the DC area descends upon Mount Vernon Avenue in the tens of thousands to explore the artisans, crafts, music, and food. Personally, my wife Deborah and I think that the Del Rey Cafe has the best brunch around, 7 days a week. The West End of Alexandria. The West End is evolving. Here you'll find more value, redevelopment. What used to be Landmark Mall is becoming the new Inova Alexandria Hospital opening in 2028, and you'll find some more space. Less walkability, but more flexibility. The West End has a lot of condo buildings, the ever-popular Cameron Station townhome community, beautiful Ben Brenman Park, and convenient access to DC and the Pentagon via Route 395. Let's talk about parks and outdoor space. Alexandria has larger neighborhood parks, access to the Potomac River, and more variation in the outdoor space. It feels less structured and slightly more spread out than Arlington. Restaurants. Arlington restaurants are more concentrated and more modern. Alexandria has more variation and more character. Demographics. Alexandria tends to be slightly more settled, more long-term residents, and more diverse in age. In the patterns that I've seen for Alexandria, people who choose Alexandria well value character, value community, and want variation. And on the other hand, people who struggle expect uniformity and don't fully explore the neighborhoods. Commuting from each. In Arlington, you have more direct metro access and shorter average commutes to DC. Alexandria still has strong access to metro, but more variability and can feel more suburban in certain areas. And this is where I always recommend to test the commute, because that decision plays out every day in your everyday life. At the end of the day, this really comes down to how you want your life to feel. Do you want optimized, efficient, and connected, or varied, layered, and experiential? Neither is better, but they are different when you're making your decision between Arlington and Alexandria. As I discussed earlier, I've been in Northern Virginia for over 30 years, first coming here for law school at George Mason University. For me, over time, Alexandria became the better fit, and it's the place that I call home. I live here, my Alexandria office, real estate office is here, and my wife's dance studio is just outside Old Town Alexandria. But that's personal. And I've worked with plenty of clients who made the opposite choice, and it was absolutely right for them. So, when it comes to Arlington versus Alexandria, there is not one right answer. There's just the right fit. After more than 20 years helping buyers and over 30 years living here, I've found that when people really understand how these places feel, they tend to make very good decisions. If you're thinking about moving to Northern Virginia and trying to sort through all of this, I'm always happy to talk through it with people. Even early in the process, those conversations can be really, really helpful. My contact information is in the description below, and if this was helpful, I have many other videos where I go deeper into specific neighborhoods throughout Arlington, Alexandria, and the rest of Northern Virginia.